Hello everybody. Today I'm working on the emergency brake on my 2006 Ranger 700 XP. The emergency brake, in my opinion, is a defective design, and it wears out really fast. It doesn't have enough strength to hold back the engines, and the emergency brake light is hard to see. But anyway, I'm working on it today. At 30 hours, my emergency brake was so loose it didn't do any good anymore, so I adjusted it. And it ran for a while. It's got 100 hours now, but it's been shot completely for quite a while. It doesn't do anything at all. So I want to get one more adjustment out of it. Alright, so to work on the emergency brake, the bed gets in the way. So the first thing you have to do is you pull this pin out of here. And this pin comes out easily. Then you can tilt the bed back so you have room to work. This makes a nice tray to hold. You take out the long bolts. You take a 9/16 or a 14mm nut loose on the back. You push the bolts out. You don't have to push them out very far, just so they're clear. This thing just lifts right out of there. Of course, somewhere along the line you have to take this loose. Once again with a clip and a pin. Nothing to it. All right, so I pulled the emergency brake out of the Ranger. These are the bolts that hold the emergency brake into place. They just come right out. Now, these short bolts hold it all together. I've already loosened them to make the video go a little quicker. So you just take those apart. You have to be careful that you're in an area when there's 3 ball bearings in here, they tend to go flying. So I just hold it together, take it apart, turn it upside down like this, or turn it on its side. Then you can take it apart. Now, this is really as far as you need to go for this fix. Now, to get one more adjustment out of these brakes, I just added one fender washer, a 1/4" fender washer right here. There's still enough of this split pin to engage the brake pad, so that engages that right there. You can see the pads are pretty well worn down to the point where they could not be adjusted anymore. Polaris uses this crummy brake pad material. If they'd put semi-metallic brake pads on here, everything would have been good. So anyway, put it back together. And let's see, we need the springs, need the sleeves. Put the springs on there. Set this on there. Slide your bolts through. And you've got to pick it up without dropping the bearings out. And I just sort of squeeze it in the middle there. Run the nuts on with your fingers. And that's enough to keep it together. See, it'll still work. That needs to be tightened down before you can put it back in the truck, in the Ranger. So you just basically tighten that down and put it back in, and you'll have brakes again. You might have to adjust your cable a little bit, but what does a washer cost? A nickel or something like that. Alright, so I've got the spacer washer. Putting it back together is a snap. You just drop it in. Take your bolts, your long bolts. Trying to do this one-handed here. Slide them through the hole. And you've got to line them up with the other holes right there. Slide this one in. And then you put I can't do this part one-handed, put your nuts back on and tighten them up. You want to make sure they're snug, but I would guess probably 30 foot-pounds would be plenty if you want to measure it. But I just snug them up and make sure you don't draw the threads too tight. Now, one thing I forgot to mention, when you start putting shims in here, you have a limiting factor, and that is this spring. If you go to close the brakes all the way, and that spring compresses tight, it's not going to, no matter how much you pull on the emergency brake, it's not going to push on the disc. So you have to have enough pad left in there so that when you pull on it, it can push on the pads against the disc without compressing the spring. So anyway, if you haven't added any shims and you're out of brake pad, can't adjust it, it's adjusted as far as it'll go. You can get more adjustment by adding this shim in here, maybe one time If you want to add more than one shim, you're probably going to have to put a longer split pin in there though. Alright, so then you just put these back together, put the pins in place, put the pin on the top, on the bed, and you're ready to go. So I'm going to go ahead and finish this up and then we'll test it. Alright, so you get to the cable adjustment here under the hood, and you find where the cable comes down. It's right in here. And that sucker is really hard to see. It's hard to get to. There's two nuts here, one here and one on the bottom. They're a real pain in the butt to adjust, but anyway, that's how you adjust it. See, there's the threaded end of the cable. You can make it longer or shorter. Right now it's at its shortest, I believe, to make up for the worn brakes. Alright, as you can see, it's on a really steep hill here, and the brake is holding. The tires are sliding, but the brake is not giving out.